What are the unknown ports that are open? What's the go with them? So many.
Yeah, look, good question. So what are the unknown ports? Now, look, so there's if you literally do like Wikipedia TCP ports, like look up the TCP ports in Wikipedia, you'll see there's a list of known ports, or also what we call registered ports, and then there's kind of like random ports. So above a particular number, I want to say it's 1024. Below that is sort of like registered or known ports. Above that are ports that are just unknown. They're just kind of random ones that we use. For example, when you try and connect to a website, right, you know that their website is on port 80, right? That's an HTTP, or 443 if it's HTTPS. But you're going to come from an unregistered, unknown port number, right? Just a random number towards the top. And that's what these ones are. So it's gone, look, I don't know what it is. It's not a registered service. I don't know what's there. Now, you can do some probing to try and see what's on there. But, yeah, we haven't done that at the moment kind of stuff. So it just doesn't know what it is. Okay, so what can we do to try and take advantage of this? Look, there's a thing, the 512, 513, 514 are these remote shells. Right, so we can try something like login and log in as some sort of a user like root. Just minimize this for a second. I can try and log in. Now, if it gives me that, if it gives me an SSH fingerprint, right, it says, look, this is the fingerprint. Normally that actually means I don't have a particular tool installed, and it's going to try and use SSH, right? So I'm just going to cancel that. So what would you need to set up or install, right? You'd need to install the RSH client, right? But by default, most systems don't actually have that installed, right? So we should be able to install it. Should be something as simple as sudo apt install rsh-client. So I'm just installing a thing called RSH client. Let's scroll back up. So I did sudo apt install RSH client. And what's that going to do? Look, that's going to install the old login system, right? It's not there by default. It's not normally installed by default, and it's one that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily have available. But now if I try it, look at this. I'm logged in as root. There you go. Job done. We can all go home, right? Taught you how to hack. No, look, it's a very insecure service, right? But we didn't have it installed by default. So what do you think of that? Right? Our first service already installed, owned it as root, as the root user. Well, look, it was a pretty standard one. It's not normally there anymore. It's not normally installed anymore on systems. It's about as easy as we can get. Right?
What's the client that you installed? What is it?
It's the remote shell client, RSH client. Right. And it uses a older form of remote login. It was a way that we could sort of log into a remote system or issue commands to a remote system.
Yeah, and why did you do that for? To show that you could get the RSL client?
So, so two things, right? First of all, because now people like Daniel that don't have internet access won't be able to sort of do this one. But I was showing you, look, our first thing is through some reconnaissance, we've seen, okay, we've got these ports open. And when you know what the ports are and what's going on, you sort of see it and go, hang on a second, that looks like that's the RSH, right, or the remote remote shell software. Right, so they're running the old RSH. They are actually still running SSH, etc. Right, which is good, but they're running some old software on there. That's not good, right? You recognize it, and then you can use RSH to log in. And RSH basically logs in without asking for a password and stuff, right? So it just blasts straight through. I said, hey, log in remotely as, you know, and log in with this root account on this, or with the account root on this IP address. And it just logged me straight in.
And you can exploit that old software somehow.
Yeah, you can exploit that old software. Exactly.
Would that work the same, or how would that look if the target was a Windows machine, like a Windows server, rather than a Linux on Linux?
Okay, so look, if it was a Windows server, there are other things you could do. There wouldn't normally be this service installed, but normally for Windows, we would exploit something like an SMB. So often there's a Samba or a Windows like server message block that is open and will allow you to just remotely connect like that as well. There's a very similar service that can do that, which you need to make sure you're not, you're not allowing access to.
But would it be presented to you, the attacker, in the same in the same way as in terms of like the Linux view with text? Or would you see like a screen showing a Windows GUI?
No, so yeah, you normally don't actually necessarily get a like a GUI, so to speak. What you can get, yes, definitely is more like a command line access. So you would talk to like a system call or something. So you'd get access to a shell. We will potentially, we probably won't do it today because, you know, we've got only about 45 minutes left or something, and we'll have a bit of a look at a few things. But using Metasploit, you can actually, or the Metasploit framework, you can actually gain control of like a Windows host and stuff like that if they don't have the right things installed. And you get effectively a shell that looks exactly the same as this. It's just, you know, instead of putting forward slashes, you've got to put backslashes for Windows and stuff like that. It's a little bit kind of wacky, but yeah, you're definitely able to just write commands as you would any Windows system.
So now that we're on this Metasploitable machine from Carly, can we do just about anything?
Yes, we can do anything. Because who am I? I am root. I am the root user.
Yep.
Right. So we've got complete control of the machine. There is nothing we cannot do.
That could be dangerous in the wrong hands.
Just a little bit. Just a little dangerous.
On the subject of SMB 1.0 though, was it a WannaCry that traversed via SMB? Lots
of systems like that do, yeah. So I think WannaCry was one of them. It used to find the SMB shares because there are hidden shares. It's actually basically like $C and stuff like that are automatically shared.
I think that was the Eternal Blue exploit.
Yeah, so it's just a really poor system that allows to kind of do that kind of stuff. Not much we can do about it, but all right. So look, I'm just going to type exit and get out, and I've closed my login session. That's, I guess, a really, really poor piece of software to have in there. But what about other software? What if we've got something else that might be a little bit of a problem? What else did we see? What other ports and stuff did we see? Well, look, there's FTP, for example. All right. There's FTP. What is it? What is this FTP service that is running? Well, FTP, file
protocol.
Yep, file transfer protocol. So what if I try telnetting to it? All right, telnet. Says it's connected. Okay, I'm going to just Control-C it. I'm going to telnet to port 21. Now, a little different. When I did telnet, I got this, right? Like, you know, I got their little page and all sorts of stuff, some cool stuff there. Right? But when I telnetted to port 21, I'm telnetting to their FTP service. right, I got this VSFTP 2.3.4. Now, what does the VSFTP stand for, by the way?
Some sort of version. What version it is?
Yeah, look, it's a version, and it's an exploitable version. Right, let's see if we've got page not found. So VSFTP was a version 2.3.4. It was a regular sort of package. It's supposed to be a very secure. That's what it actually stands for. Very secure FTP. What's the problem with it? This one had a backdoor built into it. This one's got a backdoor. Version 2.3.4 has a known backdoor, in fact. Bit of a problem. So the moment we do something like that, and you can run Nmap to sort of tell you stuff like that as well as to what versions of software and things like that you've got. And the moment we see that, we're like, oh, hang on a second.
When you said about how people can get access to your VM box, and if they've got the smarts, they can laterally move to your real machine, your physical machine. When you're downloading all this software, your VM, is it possible that someone can do that? Get into move laterally to your main operating system? It's just very sketchy to me. It's very sketchy.
Yeah, that's the whole problem with people like hackers and stuff like that.
I understand that, but what's the chances of, say, if there was a percentage of someone that's got the smarts out there? It's only a home PC that I got, but I like to protect it. I like to protect my stuff. What's the chances of me, after downloading all this stuff onto the VM, if someone's going to go, oh, you beauty?
Look, it's not likely to happen. But if, for example, you expose something to the internet, now a really common one is, for example, you expose something like webcams or something to the internet, so that way you can remotely connect to your webcams and monitor what's going on, and that's how one of the ones that I think Dean put up today was people were gaining access to stuff because they saw, you've got a port open, for example. What have you got on the end of that port? Now, thankfully, the webcams don't have enough of an operating system and stuff like that to allow people to potentially, use that as a point to jump further into your network. But it's possible. It just depends on what you're connecting to. I mean, I've got smart light bulbs and stuff that connect to my Wi-Fi, and they, they don't have enough of an operating system there for someone to be able to jump off it. But something like a dishwasher might. There's
is there alerts there that you can? Is there sort of software you can put some sort of alert software in there that'll let you know that someone's trying to?
Yep, things like intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. That's the whole point of those ones, is to try and stop that kind of stuff. All right, so can't cancel that. That's quite interesting. Escape characters are that. It's really weird.
Should it be end or close?
Because you're in the till now.
Quit, yeah, quit.
Quit will work. It's just funny. It says, yeah. Okay, so there is it's a very popular system, VSFTP. What happened? Well, someone slipped into the source code a very naughty little backdoor. So instead of connecting to port 21, if I connect to port 6200, which is, maybe I'll start up another.
And because the person put that back door, and is that because Linux is so open source and you can just change shell commands and stuff like that?
No, no. What it is that someone slipped a piece of software into the back door, right? Like in the source code, they slipped it in. So
I don't know much about Linux, but isn't Linux like you can change the shell a bit if you've got new stuff that's going to enable a better feature or something like that? Isn't Linux about
that? Yeah. Look, people. Let's see. I'll just show you a quick little thing. Now, it doesn't happen often, right? This is back in 2016, for example, right? So someone broke into Linux Mint, which is a pretty popular version of Linux. And pretty much they edited the ISO. So what you download to install an operating system, they edited the ISO and put in a backdoor, basically, right? Put a backdoor in it. So it's a pretty good one. They made a modified Linux Mint ISO with a backdoor in it and managed to hack our website to point to it. Look, it was only bad for about 24 hours. But it does happen. People ship bad code, right? And in this case, well, someone did something very, very naughty and didn't necessarily ship bad code. They put a.
Did they change the checksums as well, so people wouldn't have been able to realise?
Yeah, so they broke into the website, and by breaking into the website, I believe they were able to change the site, the checksums and stuff. But it probably got picked up relatively quickly when other mirrors tried to download it, and hopefully they had some sort of a automated system to check the checksums, because basically you shouldn't check the checksum from the place that you get it from. So you should always split your checksum from one place and your ISO download from another. If you do that, hopefully it would have worked. So how can we take advantage of this exploit? Please log in with user and pass. Let's see if that worked. No. What was it? You got to send two letters. You got to send the letter A and the letter B to try and get it working.
This is not FTP, this is Telnet, right?
So we're telnetting. In this case, I telnetted to port 21, right? Now, telnet is just a command that allows you to, well, connect to anything, right? So you can telnet, for example, port 25, right? Well, this is my SMTP server, right? Telnet is just a way to remotely access something, right? Okay. So you can telnet to basically any system that will accept that style of commands. Right, so that was a mail server, SMT XIM version 8.4 or whatever it is, as a SMTP server. 21 connects to a FTP server. All right, so how can we try and take advantage of this kind of thing? Well, what you've got to know is, first of all, there was a backdoor. And with the backdoor, you've got to know how to exploit it and stuff. Now, it was a pretty nasty one that they set up. I am still recording on it.
Is that a Star Trek reference in your domain name there, Marcus?
Yes, I do. You like it?
Yeah.
I've got that, and I've got some references to some old war battleships.
Excellent.
Yeah, love it. I'm a Trekkie. You know, my wife's a Star Wars girl. I'm a Star Trek man, but like, you know. Okay. So let's try something. MSF console. Now, what is MSF console?
Be the command prompt of the mail server, wouldn't it?
No. MSF console is the Metasploit framework. Now, what is Metasploit or the Metasploit framework? You know how we worry about people that, you know, put out these, bug bounties and stuff like that, and then they say, hey, look, you know, they tell the world about their bug bounties, you know, that they've won, and then there are some people that don't tell anyone about the bugs that they've found. What that can sometimes do is go into the Metasploit. So Metasploit framework is basically a series of or lots of known exploits, right? 2,000 exploits, lots of different payloads, right? And different evasion techniques and the like to try and basically it's a hardcore hacking tool used by good guys and bad guys, right? Doesn't matter who it is, good guys and bad guys. Now, so Metasploit has built in lots and lots of exploits. So what is the exploit, right, that we've got? Well, there is a module, there's a Metasploit module for not every backdoor, but for most and a lot of backdoors and stuff like that for these kinds of things. So if there's a known problem, then chances are Metasploit, within a short period of time, will build some sort of a backdoor kind of exploit or something to take advantage of it. So you can see here that the one that we've got is a backdoor command execution. All right. It was added way back, you know, in 2010-ish kind of stuff. And it's to do with a CVE. So what is a CVE? Someone sent me a CVE or a list of these kinds of things. What's a CVE? Well, it's common vulnerabilities and exposures, or some people think it's common vulnerabilities and exploits. Right? So these are basically when people know that there's problems in software and stuff like that, we can then give it a bit of a rating. We can see what it is and what's going on. Okay. So what are we going to try and do? Well, what we need to do is, against this, right, to be able to gain access to the version of FTP that we found. So we found that this version of FTP was exploitable, right? It's got a backdoor. We looked at it and went, okay, this version has this problem. But to be able to exploit that backdoor, and this is not something you know off the top of your head, but maybe is something that you might have found or something like that. It was actually the version of VSFTP had that backdoor in it, right? Contained a backdoor because there was a different, piece of software that had a Trojan built into it. And for those of you that are interested, this was the post that kind of said it, right? It says, I like how he starts. He goes, hi all, this is very embarrassing. And they found that a piece of software had been replaced quite a while ago with a version with a backdoor in it. It appears it happened, you know, at least on some mirrors, blah, 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 you know, what happened. So you can see a bit more information about it. Let's test it out. Let's see what we can do to try and do this. What is this Metasploitable framework? All right. So I'm going to say use exploit. And then I've got to put in a series of stuff, right? Like there's lots of different exploits and stuff in there. There's like, you know, 2049 possibilities. Now they're just in folders, by the way, right? So they're basically just folders. Right? So I'm going to say Unix exploit, and we can see about 200 Unix versions. Now, we'll play with this a little bit more at a later point, but I just want to show you sort of this Metasploit and how it works. And then there's IRC, right? And there is the Unreal IR. Now, once I typed IRC, I just pressed tab and it finished it off for me. And at this point, okay, so I've said, look, load this exploit. Basically, the Metasploit framework, the way it works is you like load an exploit. You say, hey, where do I want to attack? Then you say, then you give it any other settings and stuff that it needs to have. This one's going to be really, really simple. So for example, you could say, look, I want to use an exploit like a Windows exploit with, you know, SMB and this particular version. And then you can set some parameters, right? So this is a parameter that we're going to set. And I'm going to say set remote host and then the IP address. It goes, okay, yep. I've now set the remote host. And very simple, I say the word exploit. It should have worked. Exploit completed, but no session was created. That's interesting. Okay. Host 10.0.2.5. That's the machine. It's a good idea to double check these things before you do it. It's the right back door. It's the only one that's there. Exploit failed. Exploitation error occurred. That's kind of interesting. Good. That's the right thing. That's 10.0.2.5. Should have started the handler. Yeah, let's try a different one. Better that one. I think I've got another one that'll be very similar. Okay, let's go. Use exploit. Let's see if this one works. No, not working. Okay, neither of them are working. That's very interesting. And why not? Okay. Which looks what it should do. No session was created. All right. Let's try something else. Crack that FTP one. Nice idea. I was hoping that was going to work. Let's just telnet into it and see what we can do. Okay, user. I'm going to just say user. Maybe a little smiley face. Pass. And just put a password in there or something. And then I'm going to use the escape characters. All right. Now, hopefully, my Nmap should find 6,200. I don't have 6,200 there previously. With 6,000, I'm trying to open up a port, 6,200, that's going to sit between these two. And there it is. I've opened that port. That is that back door that we should have opened. So all I did was very simple. Connect using port 21. Like I showed before, we could see that version. To be able to use Telnet, you say something like user and password. So I said, give me this user account. And then it said, all right, please specify a password. The moment I did that, I then put in this escape character sequence. Right? Well, actually, I waited about a second or two to do it. And now I found that remote port open. The other commands that I was doing, right, these metasploitable things, right, was trying to basically get that kind of a backdoor, right? So Unreal, IRCD, that's that system, or not the system, that's the exploit that someone has found, and it should have allowed us to run some, it should have automatically run some commands and basically pushed that port open as well. We just did it a little bit manually. Very simple. So I've connected, right? Sent a username and a password, and then disconnected using this break sequence. Now we can try. Now what can I do? Well, let's try and connect to port 6,200. Connection refused. Open. No, it's closed. Right, so notice it closed. Okay, so let's try it again. 21, user. I'll use a little smiley face. Let's go winky face for him. Pass. And then escape character. I waited too long. Not there yet. Weird. Let's try again. User. 6,200 now open. All right. I'm able to connect. Come on, why not? Closing it straight away. Yeah, it's closed again. So we could see the ports getting opened, but it keeps closing on me. Yeah, let's try Windows 21. User. Okay, 6,200. So then. I'm able to connect. Yeah, I should just scan for 6,200. State closed. Okay. We want it open. Still closed. Open. Closed again. So it's open, then it just closes. Why does it keep doing that? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Did anyone's work, by the way? Everyone's getting the same issue. Right, I might have to have a bit more of a play with it, see why it's not working. It's a little annoying. So you can see this state, like this port opens, right? But then it's closing very short time later. It should stay open for a little bit longer than that, that's for sure. Anyone else get it working? I could see Daniel was like, no, didn't work.
I can't even get that far. The commands won't work, so I'm just watching.
The commands won't work?
Yeah, I've got telnet doesn't exist.
Are you in Kali?
Yep, definitely. Someone else has got that too. Just keep going and we'll sort it out afterwards. Don't want to hold the class up.
Ah, Scott May's got telnet command not found.
Yeah, that's what I got. And I couldn't run the MF one either.
The MSF console?
Yeah, it said it couldn't find that command either.
Okay.
I'll put a link in the chat from a page from Carly on how to get to the Metasploit.
How to get to the Metasploit framework and so on?
Yeah, it just gives a couple of commands and bits and pieces.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so how to get to it. Yeah, the main command is just MSF console to get to the Metasploit framework. But there is a, in fact, like that's hilarious. I'll put it in the chat. This is just one I quickly looked at. Yeah, it's a quick little tutorial on doing it. We've got the right version. We've got the right issue. It tells you, it shows you exactly where the code was and stuff as well. Telnet to the Metasploitable IP. Type the following 2 commands: user, pass. Yeah, wait a few seconds. Yep, fire up nmap. We can see that that port is open. Let's connect to the port using following command. Yeah, it's just really funny. So it's closed again, but like we're kind of getting halfway there at least. I don't think it should matter whether it's uppercase or lowercase. Port is open. Unable to connect. Connection refused. And closes. They got a little video there and everything. Oh, yeah, you see they got the same stuff. Shows you how to run the MSF console. All right, let's take a crack at something else then, maybe instead, rather than continuing on. Oh, yeah, let's do that instead. Let's have a look at this. So we've got Metasploitable has a lot of other stuff built into it. Things like Mutilidae. So you'll find lots of stuff about Mutilidae. It's actually got stuff to do as well with the OWASP top 10. Now you'll notice the OWASP top 10 is not actually the, I don't think it's the latest version. I think it's the 2013 version maybe. But there's lots of little SQL injections and broken authentication. So there's and you'll find lots of guides on how to use these kinds of stuff as well. All right. So this is Mutilidae, right? So I went back to their website because I've given up on that thing and I might have a bit of a crack at it over the weekend and stuff. But so we've got lots of different little pieces of software and they're all kind of broken, right? So you can practice other points of hacking on it. So TWiki, PHPMyAdmin. Now, has anyone used PHPMyAdmin, by the way? Anyone used PHPMyAdmin?
I used it with Terry Janet, I think his name was, or McJanet.
Yes.
And we did something with a LAMP.
Yeah, you're doing the Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP sort of system.
Yeah.
Look, really, really common. PHPMyAdmin is super common. And it's built into almost every web host. So if you've got a web hosting system and they're using either, what are the big ones? It's Direct Admin and the other one is
cPanel,
cPanel. Yeah, so even I think some of the Dream hosts and stuff like that have got it. So it's a really common one. So Joshy, you said you've used it. Whereabouts have you used it?
I've used it setting up Apache web server and shit like that.
Yeah, look, and it's really common, especially because it allows you access to like database backends and stuff. So like if you have a break, for example, you lose or you forget your, I don't know, WordPress password or something like that, right? You can use something like PHPMyAdmin to reset the password and stuff. Really, really common. Has been known to have some holes and stuff in it. So maybe let's take a look at, instead of doing these ones, we're going to have a quick play with maybe one of the Mutilidaes. which one should we do? Let's do an SQL injection. Right, so we played with SQL injection the other night, right? So we'll do some SQL injection. Now, there's a few things to know about things like Mutilidae and stuff, right? Is different level, security levels. You'll notice here that we've got like a security level 0, for example, right? You can increase the security level a little bit. You can toggle it up and stuff like that. There are some hints and stuff like that as well if you want. So you can enable and disable the hints and stuff to give you a little bit more help. So enabled, noob, you'll notice some, right? Okay, so it's disabled, right? So it doesn't give me any hints whatsoever. I've got enabled, level 1, script kiddie, right? So like, you know, someone that doesn't really necessarily know what they're doing and really wants to, I guess, you know, learn. That's one of the good things about script kiddies. And then we've got level 2 is you're a noob. So a noob is like someone that's a bit new to stuff, right? Or a newbie. And then of course we can have it switched off. Security level, I don't suggest you toggle security level too high, right? But you'll notice it goes kind of level 0, level 1, and then it jumps up to like level 5. There are ways to change it to other ones in between. And there are also documentations on list of vulnerabilities and stuff. Like, you know, that's kind of the cheating-ish way of telling you how to break in and what's going on and how to access Mutilidae over VirtualBox and stuff like that. They recommend a host-only adapter, but we've gone that. It's perfectly fine. So what can we do here? What's the first thing we try and do to see if it is exploitable, if Mutilidae is exploitable?
How did you get to that screen?
Okay, so good question. So I fired up a web browser, right? Now, inside my Kali, I fired up a web browser. All right, so I've got a web browser.
Yep.
I went to the IP address of the
Metasploitable.
Metasploitable.
Yep. Thanks.
And it gave me this address.
Yep.
And I've gone to Mutilidae.
Thanks.
Now, there are, by the way, lots and lots of videos and stuff on how to exploit Mutilidae. I think it's called Weaponized. I want to say it's Weaponized.
Good to see you use DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, I don't always use it. I use it when 90% of the time, and then when it doesn't work, no, that's not it. It's not the guy. It's this guy. It's not that guy that I want. It's well, okay. Yeah, Weaponized. Web, WN. That's kind of the main channel I recommend. The main reason why I recommend it is because you can see they're the guy that actually is the guy that actually kind of wrote it or did a lot of stuff. That's where it's hosted on GitHub. You can see hosted on GitHub there, so you can download it. You can install it into other stuff as well. So there's lots and lots of challenges and how to fix stuff and how to break into it.
What's PHP and Apache? Are they just both web server software?
Good question. Okay, so Apache is the actual web server itself, like the service that when you connect to it. So it's like, you know, when you have FTP, you have to have a piece of software, and our ones was VSFTP. Apache is a web server. Microsoft have one called IIS, and there's a number of other ones out there as well. Nginx is a really popular one too.
Is that for your URL sending or your commands to each web server? So you can use the PHP and send it to the web server Apache?
So PHP is a scripting language, right? So it's kind of like HTML, for example, but it's the next step up above HTML. It makes HTML on the fly, so to speak, right? So it's a programming language like JavaScript, HTML, things like that. PHP is another one. ASP is Microsoft's version.
Why is MySQL in the PHP my admin then?
Okay, so good question. Let's go to that first. Someone mentioned this. LAMP. I could have typed it. So L stands for Linux, right? So that's the operating system. This is often called a stack, right? So you could have Windows, for example, right? We could call it WAMP, right? Which is Windows, Apache, MySQL, PHP, for example. Right, so the A is Apache, M is MySQL, right? And PHP is the scripting language. Now, this is what we call a stack. Now, PHP will talk to the database, for example, fetches information from the database, right? So it says things like, look, username X, password Y, tell me if these match, and if it matches, then let the person in. So PHP is the language that will do that. MySQL holds all the data. Really common that you have a database backend for a web server, and Apache is the service that you connect to. It's also the service that PHP will use to try and talk to the database when it runs, and then so it's an internal and an external kind of service. And of course, you have an operating system, which in this case is, say, Linux. So it doesn't have to be, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. That's just a really, really, really common service. Right?
Yeah, I get, yeah. So, and then that's where you can set up your application programming interfaces to connect everything together for you to send like commands from the PHP to your web servers and stuff like that, and your FTP servers, and you set up like a HTML web page and have everything connected, the whole stack connected.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool.
All right. So while we're playing quickly, how did we find that we had a little bit of a broken, or that we had SQL available, or should I say SQL injection was available the other night? Does anyone remember? What do we do? We did a thing
where type in those characters. I can't remember what characters you type now. Yeah, to trick it.
We did that. Let's check it out. Said, no, look, something didn't work at the moment. Okay. Error. Failure is an option. Okay, it says, oh, did you reset the database? All right, we haven't. Have we reset the database yet? Probably not. Let's do it. So I've reset the database. Let's try again. Colon, right, or 1 equals 1. There's no, didn't work. So what are we seeing there? What can people see there?
you're trying to feed it a true statement for username.
Yes, we're trying to feed a statement in there. It's not working. Is that a bad thing that it's not working?
Because it lets you know that you're doing the wrong thing.
It lets you know that you're doing the wrong thing. Yeah. Yeah, and look, and we're getting some information back as to what, select star from accounts where username equals something, or 1 equals to 1, and password equals. And what happened with now I was actually putting this in. This is what I was putting that in, right? That's what I was typing in. What happened there at the very end here? Well, I didn't get the rest of that query. I'm just going to tweak it a little bit. All right. Select star from da-da-da. So we can keep having a little bit of a go and see what's going to happen, right? Try testing and see what we can get. Now there is an extra piece. It's 6:30, so we're kind of technically finished, or we finish around about now. Now we're going to have a little bit of a play with this kind of thing over the, especially next next class next week, and we're going to see if we can start breaking into this kind of stuff. See if we can get some information in that. Now. We're going to use an extra little piece of software in here as well, with information called the Burp Suite. Now, Burp Suite's job is basically, and this is community-ish, and you can buy some. You can actually pay for it and stuff like that. It's a pretty expensive piece of software, to be honest. And I'm not going to go too far into it, but it should fire up.
I reckon you've been doing that all night, just teasing us up, like getting us to that point and not exploiting anything, just so we're here next week.
so you
really teased now. I really want to know what's going
on. What we're going to be able to do is with Burp Suite, we're going to monitor, right, what happens when we type stuff in here and we press send, for example, right? What do they give? And a thing to notice is, it's up the top here, what's in the browser thing there, right? Little bit of a potential issue where we're getting lots and lots of information in the address bar. Right? So Burp Suite's going to allow us to monitor what's going on, connect, disconnect, for example, see what happened, and then maybe even capture the information as it goes through, and potentially tweak it and change it before it actually gets, say, sent to the server. Right? So we're going to try. That's what we're basically going to try and do. We're going to play a little bit with these little pieces. So 6:30-ish so far. I'll be honest, those FTP ones should have worked. So that wasn't me trying to tease you. This one, yeah, a little bit more of a tease.
Come on. You were, yeah.
At least our first one, well, the very first one I tried worked, which was the...
yeah.
But, it was way too easy. That first one was way too easy. This R login one kind of stuff, right? That's... there we go. We're in, so to speak. But I'll have a bit of a play as well and see what's going on with the FTP and stuff like that. I'll stop the recording now so we can finish up. Quick questions. Question time. Look, that's enough.